The NFL draft is now under a month away, and as we get closer and closer, the hype continues to build up to draft day. Today, I'm going to go through my top 10 NFL draft prospects, and I'm going to show you guys some highlights, some strengths and weaknesses, and I want you guys to go down in the comments, let me know which prospect you like the most, maybe a prospect that I left off the list that you wanted to see or that you think the Lions should go after. Quick disclaimer, this video is not going to contain players that are expected to go before pick 29. So guys like Nate Wiggins, Quinton Mitchell, those are guys that I don't see being there at pick 29, so I didn't include them. But make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I really would appreciate it. Let's go ahead and let's jump right into it. We're going to start with prospect number 1, and that is KoolAid McKenry out of Alabama. KoolAid McKenry he's been in at least like 4 of my videos already this year, and that's because this guy is a special talent, and I really do think he's going to be one of the premier corners in the NFL in the future. I think day one he could come in, be our cornerback 1 or 2, pair up alongside Carlton Davis and Amik Robertson, and I really do think that he would be the future guy. Now, some strengths and weaknesses. Some strengths: his downfield coverage is terrific. His hip fluidity is amazing. He's got great size mixed with some great physicality. Some weaknesses is that he's not great in zone coverage, which I'm not too worried about because we usually run man defense. He can be a bit handsy downfield, but he's still very disciplined. So he, when it comes to NFL games, refs can be very, throwing flags everywhere. So he does have to be a little careful with his hands. But overall, definitely one of the best prospects in this draft. And I think if he fell to 29, I don't see how you could not take him. And I feel like out of these 10 guys, I feel like this is one of the most likely guys we're going to get. I feel like we're going to get at least 1 or 2 of these guys that I'm going to list here today. Next up, prospect number 2, we have Darius Robinson out of Missouri, another guy who I'm very, very high on and I think is going to have a great career in the NFL. So looking at some strengths and some weaknesses for Darius Robinson. He is huge. He's got great size with great strength. That's what he does to get to the quarterback, because he just uses that size and strength to just push people over. He's great against the run. That's something that when I went through his film, I really noticed that he was very good against the run. He's got a really good change in direction as well. When you look at Aiden Hutchinson, who I compare this guy to, he's really good at, when he's a running back's coming at him, he's really good at, changing direction and getting to him and not, getting juked out of his shoes. Now, some weaknesses. He's slower when he's changing direction or angling, like when Hutchinson's trying to track down a quarterback. That's really fast. Justin Fields, he's not very good at it. He kind of slower on those angles. When it comes to just running full speed, he's fast, right? Like he gets moving pretty well, especially for his size, kind of like Hutch. That's why I compare him to Hutch. And he also needs some more pass rush moves, which honestly, over time, you're going to develop those. You're going to continue to find more moves that work for you. And I think he would be a perfect complement for Aiden Hutchinson. And I feel like he can be a 10, 12, maybe even 13 sacks per year kind of guy. Who knows? Next up, we have Chop Robinson out of Penn State, another guy who I really like, and I think honestly would be one of the best edge number 2s in the league. I feel like he's like a perfect complement for a guy like Aiden Hutchinson, because this dude, his first step is deadly, man. If you watch this guy's highlights, that first step is almost unstoppable. These 300-pound linemen are not going to be able to keep up with this guy. Chop Robinson out of Penn State, some strengths and weaknesses for him. Very deadly first step, like I said. Great speed and great flexibility. And he also has really good strength for his size. Now, his weaknesses. He's got a smaller body and frame. And I'm going to tell you this. Don't take it the wrong way, but he is the same size as Micah Parsons. Okay? Is he going to be the next Micah Parsons? Probably not, right? Micah Parsons is a top 3 defensive player in the league and has been dominant ever since his rookie season. So I'm not saying he's going to be like that, but I'm saying his size is basically the exact same, okay? And he also does need a little bit better hand skills, hand placement, and stuff like that. That's another thing he can work on. Other than that, this guy really, you look at his stats, it doesn't really jump out to you as like, oh my goodness, this is a guy the Lions need. But stats aren't always what matter, right? We've learned this with many players in the past. And Chop Robinson, you look at the, the measurables, the film, like it's all there. He just has to put it together, get a few more pass rush moves, and he'd be a perfect complement for our boy Aiden Hutchinson. Next up, we're going to head to the wide receiving room. Now, I know a lot of you might not agree with taking a wide receiver first round, maybe not even second round, but Brian Thomas Jr. is a guy who I'm very, very high on. I've been watching him the last few weeks, and if you put this guy in our offense, it's just going to make Jared Goff even better. It's going to make our offense even better. It's going to make our team even better. If he's there at pick 29, just go for him. Just take him. Like, he's a top 3 receiver in this draft. I think it goes Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors, and then Brian Thomas Jr. He is a monster. Some strengths about him: great size at 6'4", 17 touchdowns this past season with Malik Neighbors on his team, by the way. Very fast and athletic for his size. He's also a very good blocker. Some weaknesses: he needs to get a little bit better at the shorter routes. He also can have low agility at times, which is probably due to his massive frame. He's very big, like I said, 6'4", with great speed, but he can lose agility at times, so he could get a little bit better at that. Other than that, this is definitely one of my favorite. He reminds me a lot of Marvin Harrison Jr., and I really do think he could be the best receiver in this draft. Now, if he's on our team, he's probably going to be a wide receiver 3. He's going to free up room for Gmo. He's going to be a red zone threat and jump ball guy, which is what this team needs. And wide receiving room isn't great, but Donovan Peoples-Jones would be a good wide receiver 3. But this guy would be our wide receiver 3 for the future, and you can always have Donovan Peoples-Jones for depth as well. Moving into our next prospect, we have Kamari Lasser out of Georgia, cornerback. If you haven't heard of him, I'd recommend watching him. He reminds me a lot of a lockdown corner in the league. Don't really have like an actual comparison for him, but he's just a lockdown dude, all right? Kamari Lasser, strengths: great size and speed. He's 6'1", very fast. He's a physical lockdown corner, and he's a great run defender as well. He does it all. Weaknesses: he can draw flags downfield at times. I've watched his film. He can get a bit handsy and physical, which is good, but sometimes he can draw flags because of that. He's got to just tone it down just a little bit, and he'll be just fine. Looking at another weakness, he can be vulnerable to double moves, which guys like Tyreek Hill, even AJ Brown, guys that are just a bit faster, good route runners. He can be vulnerable to those double moves that they'd be putting on. So it's one thing he can get a little bit better at, right? But you look at his film, he's always there. He's step for step with the receiver. To me, when I watch him and I watch KoolAid McKenry. They're the 2 most lockdown corners in this draft. I really do think this guy's a bit underrated. I feel like he doesn't get talked about enough for how good he was for Georgia. Another thing, I didn't mention this, but he does need some better ball skills. He drops a lot, but again, that's something you can get better at over time. I'm not too worried about that, especially when he's probably one of the best lockdown corners, and he's got great size, and he's a dog, and he's got a very high motor as well. Next up, we have Keon Coleman out of Florida State. One of my favorite players in this draft. I am a Michigan State fan. I was fortunate enough to be able to watch this guy play for my team. Transferred, can't blame him, went to FSU, and he had a great season. I'm glad that he was able to do that, increase his draft stock, and now he's probably going to be maybe a late first, maybe early second round pick. Keon Coleman, some strengths for him. Great size, and he's an athletic freak. Watch this dude's highlights, all right? It's on the screen. Just watch. This clip right here actually is my favorite one. Like, that's crazy, dude. For being 6'4", that's insane. He can return punts. He can do whatever he wants, all right? Great hands. His hands are probably the best in the draft, if I'm going to be honest. And he also has great top-end speed to pull away for his size. Like, when he gets going, like if you watch him just streaking downfield, he can pull away from corners, but his angling speed isn't the best. You know what I mean? So he's not the most agile guy because of his size, but some weaknesses. Not the best burst off the line. He doesn't have the best quickness. He can also get a little bit more crisp at route running, which is always something everyone can work on. But for being a jump ball guy and a possessional guy, a red zone threat, and a great blocker, Keon Coleman would be such a great pick at 29 or in the second round. Next up, we have a guy that I have really began to fall in love with. Prospect number 7 is Xavier Legette out of South Carolina. Now, there has been a ton of debate of whether this guy is 6'3" or 6'1". Look, ESPN has him at 6'3", South Carolina has him at 6'3", a bunch of other sites have him at 6'3", and now the NFL Combine, I think, had him at 6'1". Look, he might be 6'1", he might be 6'3". On a good day, maybe he's 6'3", I don't know. But either way, if he's 6'1", he's still one of the most athletic jump ball guys. If you watch his highlights, great jump ball guy. He's just as good at jump balls as in contested catches as guys like Keon Coleman and Brian Thomas Jr. He's just as good as them. So you don't have to worry about that. He's an athletic freak. He's insanely fast for his size, huge upper body, Some strengths for him: insane speed for size, great route running, and he's also great at contested catches and in the red zone jump ball guy. Weaknesses: he doesn't recognize zones in zone coverage very well, and he doesn't always catch deep balls with his hands. Sometimes he uses his chest. He can get better at that through coaching, and he'll be just fine. Prospect number 8, we have Jonah Ellis out of Utah, and this is a guy who, his father, Luther Ellis, thank you for all those that reminded me in my previous video. Luther Ellis was his father, great defensive player for the Lions back in the 90s, and Jonah had a very good year at Utah. I think he had 12, 13 sacks, depending on the site you're looking at. Some strengths for him: great speed and power. You watch his film, he really does have good speed and strength, especially, for being a little bit smaller. He's got a really good run stopper, and he's got a very high motor, which is something that Dan Campbell, Brad Holmes, they like to look at that. Some other stuff about him, some weaknesses: bit smaller size. I think he's only 6'1". That's pretty small. It's okay though. If he's an edge 2, you don't need him to be huge, right? You just need him to be fast and get sacks, right? And that's what he does. He does need to bend at the waist a little more. He doesn't bend at the waist a ton, which can get him, pancaked or just stuffed at the line. So he can get a little bit better at that. But overall, I think he's a really good edge prospect. He's one of my maybe not favorite guys. Guys like Liatu Latu, they're going to be gone before 29. Jonah Ellis is a guy that you could get second, maybe even third round. And I feel like if you take a corner and an O-lineman with your first 2 picks, take Jonah Ellis. He'd be a perfect complement for Aiden Hutchinson. And I do think that he will have a very good career in the NFL. Next up, we have Mikey Sanders still out of Michigan, a guy who has transformed from a wide receiver into one of the best corners in the entire country. Mikey Sanders still. He's a guy that has quickly, risen up draft boards over, throughout the course of last season. And now that Cam Sutton is gone, it just makes me want this guy even more. I think Amik Robertson can play slot for us if we need, but he plays outside a lot too. He had a lot of outside snaps last year for the Raiders. Now, Mikey Sanders also said he is willing to move outside if he needs to. He's willing to move to safety. Doesn't matter. You can put him anywhere in the field. Put him at wide receiver if you need to. This dude had like 4 pick sixes last year also, by the way. And I think he had I forget how many interceptions he had, but this clip right here, I was at this game. Like I said earlier, I'm a Michigan State fan. That hurt at the time, but you know what? If this guy becomes a Lion, I'm fine with it. Mikey Sanders still. Some strengths for him. Only 2 years as a corner. He's still getting better, and he's still one of the best ones. Great speed and ball skills. Former receiver. Great physicality for his size. Weaknesses: his experience can come back to bite him at times, but again, he's getting better, and he's just going to continue. He's one of the best in the country. He's still getting better. Smaller in size, but still very physical. I'd be totally fine with taking Mikey Sanders still second to third round, 100%. Our final prospect number 10 in this year's draft, we have Tez Walker out of North Carolina, who is another big body receiver. Now, if you look at all those receivers that I've mentioned, Xavier Legette, whether he's 6'1", 6'3", still a big body jump ball guy. Brian Thomas Jr., Keon Coleman, Tez Walker, all 6'3", 6'4", jump ball guys, right? They're all jump ball guys, big body, fast, and very good receivers. Tez Walker's another one of those guys. Now, he doesn't really jump off the, screen at you with his route running and his, but you look at him right here, he got a pitch and he's moving. He gets moving. Doesn't have the best agility where, he can, keep going on turning and juke moves, stuff like that. He's not like a Jahmyr Gibbs, not super quick, but he gets moving. He's one of the faster receivers when he does get moving. Tez Walker, strengths, great size and physicality, love it. 6'4", great jump ball guy. He's massive, good blocker as well. Great top end speed once he gets moving, and he's a great jump ball and possessional guy, red zone threat, whatever you want to call him. And like I said, a good blocker and a decent route runner. But weaknesses: he doesn't have the best route running ability yet. He also doesn't have the best burst off the line, quickness, kind of like Keon, which is whatever. That's just, he's bigger. It's kind of how they function. Could get better at it, but I think Tez Walker would definitely be a realistic option for us to get as a receiver second round, and I would totally be fine with taking him because he's a dog. That is going to do it for me today. Let me know down in the comments which prospect is your favorite, who you think the Lions are going to get. Let me know some prospects that maybe I left off that you like, some prospects maybe later in the draft Maybe I'll do another video coming out with some later round prospects the Lions need to go after. I probably will, honestly, especially if you guys want me to. Let me know. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure to go down, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know who your favorite prospect was. Hope you guys have a great one. Peace.